What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are going to finally shoot out the EVH 5153 50 watt Stealth with the 5153 50 watt 6L6 model. Let's do it. Alright, hope you guys are doing great out there today. I know I am, because I'm getting to play two of my favorite amps head to head and finally show you guys the differences between the two. I get asked this question all the time. One of the first videos that I uploaded on my channel before I even started the YouTube channel was just a cell phone clip. Was these two back to back the day that I got the Stealth. And that's one of the most watched videos on my entire channel still, and it's like a 1-minute cell phone clip. So figured, you know what, it's time to do this thing properly. Real quick, before we get started with all that, it would do me a huge favor if you guys would consider hitting the like button after this video is over if you enjoyed it, and hitting that subscribe and bell notification, because that massively helps grow my channel. And what I'm trying to do here is to give every person an idea of what some of these crazy high gain amps sound like. Some of the stuff that's on my channel are things that I never thought that I'd obtain, things that a lot of people can't obtain. I'm really lucky to have this stuff in my collection or at my disposal. So what I really want to do is share all of these amps with you guys so you know exactly how they sound. That way it helps you in a future purchase decision, or really just helps you get an idea of what you're looking for out of an amp. So if you enjoy stuff like that, if you enjoy this video, hit that like button at the end. I'd really appreciate it. Consider subscribing. I'd love to have you around for future videos. Down in the description is where my Patreon, my Facebook group, and all the other cool links that I have as far as companies that I work with and all the other things I'm working on are. So back to the amps. When the Stealth was originally announced, I wasn't all that excited because it didn't sound like there was that much different to it. And knowing that all the EVH or the 5150 amps in general kind of have the same character, and I already have all the other ones except for the 100 watt EVH ones, I was like, do I really need this thing? It just kind of sat there and ate at me knowing that it was out there and I'd never played it. And it kind of got to the point where they were getting really hard to get your hands on. They were completely out of stock everywhere. This was like October of last year. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of want one, so I should look for one. When I got it, I was like, man, there really doesn't seem to be that much difference between the two amps. Everybody made it seem like the Stealth was just so much better than the original. I used this exact amp on my band's full length that's coming out in a couple months for some of my guitar tracks, and it sounded amazing. And I was like, man, I love this amp. I just wish it had a little bit more clarity to it. It seems a little bit congested. And I'm used to a Splawn, which has a ridiculous amount of clarity. So that was always my gripe with this amp. So when I finally put the two side by side, I was like, oh wow, the Stealth kind of fixes my little gripes that I have with the original 5153. It kind of decongests the mids. It makes them a little bit more balanced and not quite as round, and they sit where they're supposed to. It adds clarity because that congestion's gone. But really, that's it. I mean, you guys listen to them back to back. This one's a little bit tighter, and I think it's because the low mids are more focused, and it's got a little bit more clarity and a little bit more upper mid bite, and that's it. They sound very similar. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put everything back to noon. I, of course, had my Deadwell Duality DX pedal engaged like I do at the beginning of every video because it's my favorite pedal on this planet. That's basically, I had it in the Tube Screamer style circuit mode. We're gonna go no boost, everything at noon. We're gonna turn the gain down to 9 o'clock. and we're on the blue channel. We will get to the red channel, but I don't really like the red channel on these amps that much because it's extremely compressed. Okay, so we're on the stealth, blue channel, everything at noon. All right, so first impressions of either. This one, the stealth, is definitely more modern. The EVH actually almost has more of like a Marshall style midsection to it, but still even fuller in the low mids than a Marshall would be. But as soon as I switched over to it, the differences are definitely more noticeable at lower gain settings and with no boost out front. So let's crank the gain up to 11 on both of these and start playing some kind of more high gain riffage. So as you can hear still, stealth just sounds a lot more modern. It's like the low mids are more there, but they're also not as woofy. So it's the low mid frequencies that have been kind of rounded out a little bit to make the amp sound more balanced. This one is still a little bit woofy in the low mids. So in turn, it makes the stealth tighter. So what we're gonna do on these stealth is bump the mids up and bump the lows up a tad and see how it compares. So yeah, it's still just rounder overall on the 6L6 blue channel. So yeah, let's get that gain up to about 1 o'clock and definitely get some actual high gain riffs going here. Once you get the gain going, they start to be a little bit more similar. I just hit the volume on that. So they still sound similar, but again, this one is just rounder in the mids and it sounds a little bit woofier and more congested. So we will actually dial some low out, dial the mid up, and dial the high up a tad, and then see how they compare. I really think that low mid in the stealth is what makes a huge difference in the preamp of this. It just makes it sound a lot tighter and more modern, a little bit more immediate on the low end too, because those low mids aren't trying to bounce and come back. You're not gonna be able to dial this amp in, I found, to model the low mids on this. It's just inherent to the voicing here. 5150s typically don't have a ton of sweep in their EQ either, so it's not like you've got a ton of dialing options here to really shape it the same as this one. If you were to stick a 10-band EQ in the loop of this thing and dial some low mids down and dial a little bit more upper mid in, you might be able to get pretty damn close. What I love about the blue channel on both of these amps versus like a PV 5150, there's actually some dynamics there. You can actually control the output and the tone a lot more with how hard you hit with your right hand than you can with the other amps, which are just so compressed that no matter what you do, you're kind of getting the same thing out of it. There's just that much compression. All right, so now we're gonna set both amps up to my kind of ideal settings, which is usually lows at 6, highs at 7, or I'm sorry, mids at 7 and highs dialed back to 4 with the presence somewhere around noon. It depends on how loud you have the amp, because the louder it is, the brighter it is, but for right now, it's around noon. Also, I've noticed that the stealth is a little bit less saturated on the blue channel than my regular EVH is. So people who said that the blue channel has way more gain on the stealth, I'm not experiencing that. All right, so that is how she sounds unboosted. Let's kick that dead weld back in and go back and forth a little bit. All right, guys, so that is with the dead weld duality boost. I'm going to actually, I've got the resonance on both these at 1 o'clock. I'm gonna dial it back a little bit on the 6L6 because it seems to be like the bass is almost overpowering. All right. There we go. Now the bass is a little bit more in line between the two, so it doesn't make this one seem that much flubbier. Let's kick in the Balaguer Fish and Drive V2 because this thing actually sounded really cool on my original 5150 shootout. So let's see how it does on the threes. Wow, that actually sounds really cool on this amp. All right, guys, so back to back Blue Channel, I got to give it to the Stealth, man. It just sounds so good. That upper mid, it's a little bit more annoying by itself, but in a band mix, you're going to cut and sit way better with that mid than you are on this one, which is kind of bloated and a little bit hard to control. So real quick, we're going to go over to the red channel on both. All right, guys, so now we are on the red channel, no boost. We are on the Stealth. So that's with the gain very low on both. Let's turn the gain up to 3. But you can hear a lot of the similarities between the two on the blue kind of resonate in the red. The red has that bigger upper mid spike. So yeah, still some of the same stuff applies here. Let's dial it how I would dial it real quick. kind of similar settings as to how I would dial the blue channel. Oh man, that sounds really good actually. So as you can hear, same things apply to the red channel that apply to the blue channel. Tighter, leaner in the low mids, brighter in the high mids. This one's a little bit more bloated, a little bit more woofy in the low mids, and the mids overall are a little more congested. Makes the amp almost kind of seem like it's sitting behind a blanket a little bit in comparison to the Stealth. So yeah, that's it. Let's play a few chords real quick. I know that's random, but just to give you just to give you the picture of how much string clarity is in both of these amps. So as you can see, yeah, just with the way that this thing's EQ'd, it just has a lot more string clarity to it than this one. And that's why I tend to prefer it, especially when I mix it with my Splon that has those big round Marshall 800 style mids. They sit perfectly together between, you know, vintage and modern. This one pairs nicely with the Splon, but not quite as nice because the mids are almost in a similar place on this amp. So, in conclusion, yeah, if I had to choose between these two, I'd choose the Stealth. I have no problem playing through this amp anytime. I still think it's amazing, but I really think that the Stealth improved the things that I would change about the 5150, blue and red channel both. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic amp, guys. Is it worth $200 more than this one brand new? I don't know about that. I mean, that's a lot of money for a little bit of difference, but it'd be up to you to decide. Is this one worth $1,300 new because you can barely find them used, whereas this one is $600 used? Are they worth that difference? No, all day, man. Get this, get a $100 EQ pedal, throw it in the loop, and you can probably get pretty damn close to what you're hearing on the Stealth. If money's not an object and you just want to get whichever one is going to be better and not have to fuss with it, subjectively, my opinion is on this. Objectively, they're not different enough to warrant the price difference. So I hope that you guys found that helpful. I hope you guys can finally choose between the two, which one you think will be right for you, or if it's worth it to spend the extra money over the Stealth. Again, if you like this video, please hit that like button. It really helped me out. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'd love to have you guys here. Take a look at my Patreon down below. My band's links are down below. My Facebook group, I would love it if you guys came in and chatted with everybody. We're close to 200 members already. It'd be really cool to have you guys along for the ride on this YouTube channel because we're gaining subscribers fast. We're having a lot of fun and we're doing a lot of content. So would love to have you guys here. Thanks for being here for this one. Kyle here again. We will see you next time. There's no switches on the front. I got confused.